Fashion's biggest event of the year, the Met Gala, just happened. I'm a fashion obsessed girly. I did once upon a time go to uni for fashion, and as such, the Met Gala is like my Christmas. So in today's video, I'm gonna give you guys my real, honest, raw opinion on the Met Gala, and a little spoiler alert, I was very disappointed. So just to ensure that we're all on the same page, let's talk about what the theme was this year, because I've seen a couple of people online pretty confused about the Sleeping Beauty element, the Garden of Time, and not really understanding it. So let's just like explain it, you know? So the dress code for the Met Gala this year was the Garden of Time, whilst the theme of the Costume Institute's exhibit, God, that is a difficult word to say, was Sleeping Beauty's reawakening of fashion. So I think a lot of people don't realize that the Met Gala is actually a fundraiser for the Costume Institute, so that they can produce some more fashion exhibits at the Met that like the general public can go see. It's a normal museum. So as such, inside the Met Gala every year, the Costume Institute runs an exhibit, and this year, that exhibit is the Sleeping Beauty's reawakening of fashion. However, it has nothing to do with Disney princesses. Instead, this exhibit is actually really cool if you're into fashion or history, as it's all about showcasing how important it really is to care and look after these garments in the proper storage. As the Costume Institute wants to preserve fashion history, and as such, they upkeep a lot of garments. I'm pretty sure it's something like 30,000, and they store all these items in temperature-controlled rooms with low light. Kind of think of it like art. The Mona Lisa is stored behind glass in perfect conditions. These garments are exactly like that. So the idea of the exhibit this year is to pull out from storage and display some of the most delicate pieces from the Costume Institute and reawaken them from sleeping. Huh? You see the theme? You see the theme? Whilst the actual dress code of the Met Gala is the Garden of Time. However, Sleeping Beauty's awakening of fashion will and did have an influence on what the guests will wear, or did wear, sorry. So the theme of the Garden of Time is a short story written by the author J.G. Ballard, and a quick synopsis of this story is that the story follows a count and countess that live in the countryside in the 1920s, and one day they see a group of, quote, humanity coming towards their home, which is basically like an army, and they don't know the intentions of this army. So each evening, the count plucks a crystal flower from their garden, which when it explodes, resets the army to where they were earlier, essentially meaning that these crystal flowers are able to turn back time. Eventually, the count and countess run out of these crystal flowers, and the army breaks through the garden walls, and as they do, two figures that are made out of stone that look exactly like the count and countess appear, and for a moment, a single rose blends in with these statues. And the main theme of the story is repelling time, just like the Costume Institute's fashion conservators that want to repel the elements of time from their garment. Now we know what we're looking for, now we know the theme, we'll be able to discuss if people hit the theme, if they didn't, and just what went on the carpet. Let's get into it. We're gonna start off by talking about the Met Gala co-chairs, starting off with JLo. So JLo wore a Schiaparelli gown, and look, there is no denying that she looks gorgeous, she looks really sexy. However, I expected more from the duo. Schiaparelli is known for their super camp, somewhat obscure design. So to then produce just like a normal shimmering gown for JLo, I was left pretty disappointed. I mean, how many times have we seen JLo wear something exactly like this? This is not groundbreaking for her. Now, I've seen some people say that perhaps JLo's outfit was meant to be symbolic of the crystal flowers that were exploding. I think that this is a bit of a stretch. Another female co-chair of the evening was Zendaya. So Zendaya actually wore two different John Galliano looks. One at the very beginning of the Met Gala carpet, and then one right at the very end. I love that she served us two looks. I think that this is very much inspired by Lady Gaga in 2019 when she served 4 looks on the carpet. I wish they all gave us multiple, because then there's a lot more to talk about. It's a lot more fun, so I really did enjoy this. So Zendaya's first dress was inspired by a 1930s John Galliano gown, which is on theme for the time period of the Garden of Time. And of course, the hummingbirds and the grapes that are on her gown are on theme too. But I don't know, I just didn't like this look. I feel like it looked pretty cheap. It was also giving evil stepsister vibes from Cinderella with that color palette. And the second gown that she wore was from John Galliano's time at Givenchy. And again, it was on a theme with the bouquet of flowers on her head. But I didn't love this either. Zendaya to me is one of the Met elites. Usually when she shows up at the Met, she puts on absolutely show-stopping looks, nails the brief, and looks stunning. So when it comes to her, I have high expectations, and unfortunately this year, I just don't think that she met them. In saying that, at least Zendaya followed the theme, unlike one of her fellow co-chairs, Chris Hemsworth. Why Chris Hemsworth was chosen to be co-chair, I will never understand. Like, I'm all for Australian representation, but like, what does this man know about fashion? He is just a boring straight male that shows up to every event in a boring suit. And the Met Gala was no exception. So, Chris Hemsworth and his wife both wore Tom Ford, and the look was boring. Like, it wasn't on theme, it washed him out, and he looks boring. I did see some people online saying that he dressed as the Count from the story in the Garden of Time, but he doesn't even wear a suit similar to what they wore in the 1920s. So I think again, this is us all like begging the celebrities to follow the theme and like wishing and trying so hard to make it work even though it's not there. They let Australia down. Like, we don't have many of us at the Met, as if you're not going to put in any effort. This is what I don't understand. So many people would kill to be in that position, and they show up and don't even try. Meanwhile, the other male co-chair of the evening, Bad Bunny, absolutely ate. and is a perfect example of putting in effort and dressing on theme. So Bad Bunny wore Mason Margiela, and not only did his look reference the Garden of Time because he's holding a bouquet of fabric flowers, but his blazer also had exposed stitching on it, which is actually a callback to previous Mason Margiela looks, and is showcasing how over time garments can decay and fall apart, which is on theme with the Sleeping Beauty element. I love how he absolutely committed to this look, and even the hat is fantastic because inside the Met Gala exhibition they had a whole part dedicated to hats. So I love the effort and I think that he looks absolutely incredible. Now let's discuss the Kardashians. Okay, so Kim Kardashian. The internet was up in arms about her outfit, right? And I got to admit, outfit's probably like the wrong word, her look. And I've got to admit, I was too. When I saw her step out in this beautiful gown and that ugly like gray pilling cardigan, I was like, what is going on? And I was convinced that she'd had a wardrobe malfunction. I was like, this is the only thing that makes sense. That's the only reason she would wear that. And then I went away and thought about it and I was like, nothing the Kardashians ever do in the public eye is a mistake. It's always very calculated. It's always very planned. So I went and did the research on why she's wearing this ugly sweater. And it turns out that Kim K may be one of my favorite looks of the evening. So Kim K is also wearing Mason Margiela, and the gown was made up of a silver corset and a chainmail skirt that was full of floral style, which of course was on theme for the Garden of Time. However, it was actually the cardigan that made her even more on theme for the Sleeping Beauty reawakening of fashion. As this cardigan had a lot of pilling on it, right? So everyone's like, why is she wearing that old cardigan? You couldn't even get a new one. Well, a pilling cardigan is actually used a lot in the Mason Margiela collection, and they do it a lot of the time over gowns. And you guys, I was like mind blown when I read this next part. So the pilling on the cardigan was intentional and is actually on theme to show the aging of clothes over time and how they wear down and become ruined over time. I was mind blown when I read that. I was like, oh my god, she's actually a genius, and I don't know why I ever doubted her. I should have known that there was a reason behind this cardigan. Just so incredibly smart and so on theme. And as everything with the Kardashians, they're always like looking to generate buzz, and I think that this did exactly that. I will say I didn't love the corset on Kim. I feel like it's a little bit been there, done that. We know Kim has a tiny waist. We're always seeing her in something tiny. And I noticed that Kim looked really uncomfortable. In all the videos I saw, she was like really uncomfy, and I feel like it's because the corset was just way too tight. I personally would much rather see her in something a little bit looser where she's happier, you know? But overall, I loved this look once I learned the meaning. So Kendall Jenner wore a Givenchy gown, and she just looked absolutely stunning. Now she of course is not on theme at all for the Garden of Time. However, Kendall is actually wearing an archival Givenchy gown, and she's on theme for the Sleeping Beauty's A Reawakening of Fashion. Bear with me, I shall explain. So the gown is from Givenchy's Spring 1999 collection and was actually designed by Alexander McQueen. And when Alexander McQueen was showcasing these at his runway show, all of the clothing was actually shown on mannequins so that the audience would just appreciate the garments without focusing on the model. So Kendall Jenner is actually the first person to ever wear this dress that, in her words, has been sleeping for the past 25 years, just like the Sleeping Beauty. I love Kendall's interpretation of this theme. I thought it was so intelligent and she looks absolutely stunning, so I was obsessed. And Kendall was my favorite Kardashian at the Met Gala this year. You know who was my least favorite though? Kylie Jenner. Kylie used to be one of the Met Gala elites in my eyes. I would look forward to her outfits every single year, but unfortunately, just like everything with Kylie's life, she's just lost her spark. She's lost her pizzazz, that like star power. She just doesn't seem to have it anymore. The cream Oscar de la Renta gown was just really boring and it wasn't on theme. Now I've seen a couple of people say that apparently this dress was meant to represent the garden statues in the story, but I've not been able to see this be corroborated by anyone in Kylie Jenner's team, and I think again this is us all just desperately begging for these celebrities to follow the theme. So I don't think that that is the case at all. I think unfortunately she's given us nothing and just ignored the theme completely, which is just like, why bother coming? Just stay home. Just stay home and give this spot to a celebrity that is going to serve us a fashion look. So Khloe and Kourtney Kardashian didn't attend the Met this year, but Kris Jenner did in a white Oscar de la Renta gown. And even Kris was more on theme than Kylie Jenner, as her gown had white floral embellishments. Now look, this dress isn't groundbreaking, but it's Kris Jenner, you know, she's a mature aged woman. She's not going to show up in a ball gown because that's just not her style. So I think that this look was very true to her own personal style while still being on theme, and I liked it. Would I prefer to see her in something that's a bit more razzle dazzle? Of course, but it's Kris Jenner. We're never going to see that, so I think she did pretty well for her own personal style. Next up, my queen Ariana Grande returned to the Met Gala this year. This is the first time she's been to the Met since 2018 when she absolutely slayed. So Ariana Grande wore Loewe, who was actually the sponsor of the Met Gala this year along with TikTok. So the gown was custom custom and the bodice was made of mother of pearl and it had a long opalescence type gown flowing underneath. And there was a lot of personal symbolism in Ariana's gown. Firstly, Ariana's birthstone is pearl. Secondly, her little eye accessories, they are a nod to the We Can't Be Friends music video that Ariana released recently. And thirdly, the gown has little hues of green and pink for Wicked. Overall, it was a super stunning gown with a lot of gorgeous symbolism for Ariana, but the issue is, and this breaks my heart to say, there was no symbolism for the theme. Like, the theme has been completely forgotten here. I think the dresses focus too much on Ariana herself and not like the art of the Met Gala, and no one is more upset that I have to say that than me. Someone that knew how to follow the theme was Tyler in her beautiful Balmain dress. This was my favorite look of the night, and it was complete with an hourglass clutch and water droplets dripping off her nail for her song Water. And she was incredibly on theme, as this look actually represents the sands of time and how time is fleeting and meant to evoke passing time, which is incredibly on theme, and she just looked beautiful. So this was actually Tyler's first ever Met Gala, which if you've seen my previous YouTube video, you would know the best dressed at the Met Gala often ends up being someone who's attending their very first Met Gala. They really just show up and show these other people who have been going for years how it's done. So I loved this look. I think it was absolutely incredible, and in my opinion, the best dressed of the evening. Nicki Minaj was also in attendance at the Met Gala this year, and she wore a custom Marni gown. I think that this is one of Nicki Minaj's best Met Gala looks yet. I absolutely hated her one last year. And my only critique that I really have for this outfit is that I kind of wish that the floral embellishments were included on her shoes as well. Like, the shoes just seem to not really match all too well. But I am obsessed with high heels. That is my favorite thing in the world. So, you know, I would have loved to see like a little bit of a fancier heel, but I guess beggars can't be choosers. At least she followed the theme, which is actually the issue with this Met. This is fashion's biggest event of the year. I shouldn't be sitting here like, at least one of them followed the theme. Like, I can't say too much about Nicki's outfit because she followed the theme. Like, no, they should all be following. Like Lana Del Rey. Lana is a perfect example of how to do this theme right. So Lana wore a custom Alexander McQueen gown that is actually in reference to one of his most iconic designs. However, they added a twist to it, the twist being the Garden of Time thing, by adding in some branches and one singular rose, just like in the story. I also really love that Lana and her team didn't like take the easy route of just covering her in flowers, which so many celebrities did tonight, which I just expected more from the Met. I didn't think that like everyone was just gonna show up in a ball gown with flowers, so I mean, that's what happened. But I absolutely love that they've gone with a different route by using the branches to create this really unique piece of art. Honestly, Lana absolutely ate, looks so stunning. She can come back to the Met Gala every year as far as I'm concerned. Do you know who in my books though is no longer welcome after this year? And that is Dua Lipa in Marc Jacobs. Dua Lipa was one of the best dressed at the Met Gala last year, absolutely stunning and nailed the thing. And I don't know what happened. This year she seemed to be like, yeah, no more babes. Giving up on following the theme altogether. This is just like an extremely messy look. It looks super thrown together and it's just not in a theme. I don't know. I don't like it. And I really like Dua Lipa, which is why I was so disappointed because I'm like, I know you're better than this. Next up is Cardi B. And now I always think that Cardi B gets slept on at the Met Gala. Year after year, she shows up in these incredible looks that are so on theme and I am always obsessed. So I was really excited to see her look this year. She's someone I consider to be like one of the Met Gala elites. So this year she wore a custom gown by the Chinese designer Windowsen, which took 2 months to make, and it is this huge black gown that is made up all of tulle. It's definitely large, and I think that what's happened here is that I don't know, like just because it's a huge dress doesn't mean that it's show-stopping anymore. I think that this has been done a lot. We saw Rihanna a couple of years ago with the giant gown. I feel like going for that same look, a big gown to be like, yep, well, that's enough, isn't cutting it anymore. And that the wow factor of this gown and how long it took to make, how huge it was overshadowed by the fact that it was just, at the end of the day, a big black gown that was not on theme. Like if it had a couple of like, now I know I said I didn't want flower motifs, but at this point I'll take it. Flower motifs, a couple of clocks somewhere, like that would be so iconic. If it was at any other event, I'd probably be okay with it, but this is the Met, people. This is the Met. Next up, we have Charli XCX, who wore a Marni gown. And this gown was actually made from a bunch of t-shirts from the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. And then the gown was distressed with a bunch of holes to show the aging of garments. Obsessed. I love when these dresses have a story for the theme. I think that this is so incredible. And of course, Charli looked incredible. She always does, but I appreciate that she's looking incredible whilst being on theme. And I wish that more celebrities opted for this route of like a distressed gown to show the aging of clothes over time instead of just slapping some flowers on a ball gown. In saying that, I did love Dove Cameron's floral ball gown. So Dove Cameron wore diesel, and she explained that the vision of her entire look was that it was the garden overgrowing and slowly decaying over time, which is why she had, you know, the panels dripping down off her arms, and she explained that that's also why her hair was so long and outgrown. I love her interpretation of the theme, and I feel like it was the perfect way to do the theme, to have some florals without it being boring. Now, Doja Cat. Doja Cat wore a Vetements oversized t-shirt that was absolutely covered in hair gel, she told interviewers, to give the wet look. Now, according to Doja Cat, she was on theme because the t-shirt dress was made of cotton, and cotton can be found in garden. Look, I think this is a bit of a stretch, personally. Doja Cat loves to wear outfits that people are going to talk about, right? I feel Doja Cat and the Kardashians are the same. If it's good press or bad press, who cares? At least they're talking. And I think that this look was created for that exact reason, and that the link to the Gardens of Time was an afterthought. I don't know, I like the creativity of this look, but I just think that it didn't really work, and I didn't love the shoes with this. I don't know, I just did not like this look, and I would love to have seen Doja Cat, who is so known for like her over-the-top style and her camp style, follow it in a cool way instead of just kind of like ignoring the theme altogether. Now, Gigi Hadid wore a Tom Brown gown that took over 13,000 hours to create by hand. The gown has an interesting concept as it's a jacket turning into a gown. However, it kind of became overshadowed by the rest of the gown and the floral motifs. You couldn't really see the whole concept that was going on, and the jacket concept got kind of lost. It's on theme with the flowers, but honestly, the flowers to me felt like an afterthought. Like, the gown was okay, but I was expecting a little bit more from the duo, and it honestly felt like a little bit outdated. Whereas Cynthia also wore Tom Brown, and her look is so much more elevated than Gigi Hadid's, and I was obsessed with it. This look was on theme and not boring, and I absolutely loved the mixture of like the masculine and feminine style. For the masculine, we had, of course, the like cropped suit, the leather boots, and for the feminine style, we had the big flowing skirt and covered in rose petals. I thought that this was absolutely stunning. The gown featured a lot of insects on it as well, which I was a little bit confused about at first, so I did my research, and apparently inside the exhibit, they had a whole area that was about how insects have affected the fashion industry. So that was why she also had like all these little insects all over her. So super on theme, and I really liked this. I also liked that she didn't do the expected and wear something green for Wicked, and instead wore something pink and black. I loved it. Sydney Sweeney didn't like this one. We'll just come out and say it, didn't like this one. So she wore a custom Miu Miu ball gown that was on theme, but again, honestly, a ball gown with flowers just seems like the easy route to me. Like, this is the Met Gala. Where is the creativity? Where is the passion? Where is the trying to break the fashion boundaries? Out of all these celebrities and designers that showcase their looks, honestly, I found most of them to be extremely disappointing and a letdown. These are meant to be the best of the best in the fashion world. What's going on? What's going on? And overall, I was sadly like really disappointed in the Met Gala this year. Usually I'm not. Usually I like, you know, even if everyone else is hating on it, I'm like, it's okay. No, it's totally fine. This is fine. But this year, I just think that so many people chose the easy route, and there was a real lack of passion and creative flair. I'll never understand why some celebrities attend yet refuse to follow the theme, because there are so many people that would kill to be in that position and would just feed us a better look than what they did. So those are my opinions. Be sure to leave yours down below. I'm gonna sit through and read through all of them like I always do. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel because I have a heap more like this. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Snapchat. I am absolutely everywhere. If you just look up Annalise Wood on anything, I'll come up. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.